Let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening seeking your blessings and grace as we gather here together in fellowship as a community. We come before you this evening in the name of Jesus Christ and ask that you bless this meeting, these leaders, and all the citizens of Vienna. Lord, we ask that you guide the mayor and the members of City Council in matters that they will be taking up tonight. And grant them the ability, Lord, to make decisions using sound judgment, wisdom, strength, and understanding, and in all, the spirit of cooperation and enthusiasm. Help us, Lord, to be patient and open-minded, and grant us the ability to listen to others with respect. This, Lord, we pray in your heavenly name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call to order the special session of the Vienna City Council for November the 3rd, 2022. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll that all members of council are present this evening with the exception of Mr. Leach, who is out of town. Having a quorum, we will proceed. We have no unfinished business this evening, and so this evening we have one item on our agenda, and that's a discussion of the Jackson pool design. Melissa and I had a meeting this week with some experts on handicap accessibility. And so, Melissa, would you share with us some of the comments that they made and the other things that were discussed, please?
Yeah, you may include like what they sent in an email today, that kind of stuff. Or...
However,
okay.
Whatever.
All right, so I don't think they would mind if I named them. Is that okay?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Pisco were very helpful. He had reached out to me at an event earlier in the year and had let me know that he would love to talk about further details for accessibility and, you know, making sure that the pool is a safe and not just compliant space, but a space where it could realistically be used by anybody of any ability. So I really appreciated whenever I reached out to them, they jumped right on it. They came down, and Mayor Rapp joined us for that. So they really were positive about the design of the pool. They understood that we were still waiting on ramp designs and those specifications, and so there were some things that we just couldn't review with them. They do really like, we talked about even kind of just some logistics, because as you're thinking through how are we going to design this, you have to think the logistics as well. And we talked about when somebody like himself who is in a wheelchair, say he comes in, says I'm here for the day, and he pays his money, and then could go directly to like the lifeguard station where we would have the wheelchairs that are water, the ones that we could have available for water access. And so he could do the transfer in there, leave his chair in a secure space, any equipment or whatever that he had, and then be in that chair for the duration of his time until he was ready to leave. That way he's not getting his chair wet and that kind of thing. So we did kind of talk through the logistics of that, and they both felt really good about it. They also, I talked to them about the design of the ADA bathrooms, and they do feel like maybe they could be a little bit bigger, and actually gave a suggestion about, you know, moving a wall here and doing a few things that I'll discuss with Omni and see what their thought was. Their design might have something to do with plumbing and maybe not moving it because of the flooring, but I can't speak to that necessarily. So anyway, she did give me some good ideas about, you know, how we could reconfigure the bathrooms just a little bit more to add a little bit more space. As far as he was concerned, you know, and he spoke mostly for those who have like a physical disability, maybe in a wheelchair or in braces or something like that. He felt like once we have a ramp and have the lift, that it is pleasing and acceptable as far as the things that we are providing for people to do. We also talked about how programming wise, we do want to have, whether it's certain days or certain hours of the day, where we provide an opportunity for people that, maybe they don't really want to be around everybody else who's splashing and different ages, and they just want to come in there themselves and maybe not be as insecure or something like that. And so they do like that idea about adding that portion of the programming to our new way of doing the pool. What else stuck out to you?
Well, first off, I really appreciate Mr. and Mrs. Pisco taking the time. They are very knowledgeable. I mean, their understanding of all of the regulations and everything is a lifetime experience for them. And so everybody, typically when you think about handicapped people, you think of people that are in wheelchairs or on crutches or have some sort of mobility issue. They also brought up the items of people that are blind or people that cannot hear. And so there's several things that are very easy to do on your signage. When you put your signage around the pool, put the Braille signs on it as well. That's a very easy thing to do. We can have that done when we make them. The other thing was, if you're blind, the Braille part helps you, but if you're hearing impaired, when the lifeguard blows the whistle and says, okay, it's time for a 10-minute break, they probably wouldn't hear that. So I've not seen this, but we're going to reach out to Omni because they've got so many pool designs that they've done. But it would seem fairly easy to me that there would be a way to put a flashing yellow light or something that would signal, it's break time. It's 10 minutes to the hour and everybody else is getting out of the pool. That would signal that. The other thing that I really appreciated from them was the fact that there are certain widths that you need to accommodate for wheelchairs. And they had a great knowledge about the plastic wheelchairs and what have you that you can actually take into the pool. And so knowing that we need a minimum of 3 foot and that, the plastic wheelchairs can, go in and get wet and it won't hurt them in any way, that was a real education for me because I'm not familiar with that at all. And so I think by them coming that we've learned that with just a little bit of extra effort that we can be very accommodating. So I think those were very good suggestions that they made.
And I'd let them know that as things progress and we're getting down to kind of the nitty gritty things like, well, how long is this bench going to be and how many benches do we want and that kind of stuff, that I would reach out to them again and find out, okay, does this look like, because one of their ideas was to have, right now the shower stall has one side that's open, and they suggested having two sides that are open, that makes it easier for a side transfer and that kind of thing. So I thought that was a good input as well. So I'm going to lean on them some for working out kind of those nitty gritty details in those ADA bathrooms. So they were very pleased that we had 4 of them and really liked that the priority that we were putting on them.
Are you going to talk about the lanes or you want to do that now or later?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
So I'm going to, first of all, I think I'm going to just lead off by saying I want everybody to take a deep breath because there's been a lot of feedback and a lot of talk, and some of it I'm just being patient because not everybody can come to the city council meeting, and not everybody watches live stream, and not everybody goes back and watches the YouTube. So they're only relying on what they hear from other people. And so as much as possible, I would like everybody to just take a deep breath and share what we are discussing, and not to read into anything else. There are no backdoor meetings. I'm not a boy, and so I'm not doing good old boy things. None of that is going on. There's nothing shady going on behind doors. We have our public meetings. So I think I would caution people not to go down that road. I would like us to stay positive. This is a really exciting project, and there's no reason for people to be aggressive in a negative way. So all of that being said, everybody has had time to process and look at things. And here are some of the things that already are being, are going to be shared with Martin and Omni and asking them to make these adjustments. One of them is to not do the lily pads. The lily pads, yes, they do tether to the bottom. It would be like a what's it called, a cup bolt, I think. So it's a cup, and it's like below the surface. So here's the surface, and here's the cup, and it latches in that. So you're not going to step on anything. It's going to be level with it, and they are removable, but it's not something that we would want to be just switching them in and out, in and out, in and out. You know, it would kind of be a hassle to do that. They do take up a good amount of space, kind of in that 3 to 4 foot space. And whether it's Aqua Zumba or the exercise classes or just free play for the kids, we have seen that those are probably not the most ideal piece. I've asked them to look for something else floating, maybe like an island. I can picture something that could hold, 6 or 8 little girls that all want to gather there and be silly and, swim out to the island and crawl up on it kind of thing. So they're looking at some other options that we might be able to have, like one thing that's tethered to the bottom and wouldn't be a major obstruction to any activities that we're doing on a regular basis. So I'm glad that they're going to look into that for us. So as far as I'm concerned, I am ready to move on and say, let's not do the lily pads. Let's maybe try to find an alternative to that.
Can I interrupt you for
Yes.
a second?
Mm-hmm.
Kim sent me a message this week that had 2 links to it. That, Kim, if you could share that with the rest of the council members. There are 2 videos in this link that she sent to me. One of them is a 2.5-minute video of the city park in Parkersburg. It's one of the finest videos I've ever seen. Okay, it was fantastic. And the other one is actually a Martin Aquatics project that they did in Orlando, Florida. It shows the big slides, and it shows, this was for a housing development. It wasn't a public pool, but it was for a major housing development down there. But at any rate, they showed the 2 large tube slides, but they also incorporated into it the splash pad. All right. And so when you look at these 2 videos, that if Kim doesn't have time, I'll share the links because I've got them, but she already has it ready. When you look at these 2 links, what I would like you to think about is the age groups that you want to service at the Jackson pool. All right. And so when Melissa talks about the lily pads, if you're going to do any kind of lane swim or whatever, they would definitely interrupt you. There's no question about that. And my concern is that if they were in there after, a few weeks, people would get tired of, being there, and it's not a very interactive play thing. But at any rate, take a look at the 2 videos that Kim sent me. And I want you to look, if you will, pay attention to what Parkersburg did with their splash pad. It's got a slide in the center. It's got all of these water activities all the way around it. And they're gearing their pool, that portion of their pool, to smaller children. 3 years old to maybe 10. All right. And I think what we as a group need to decide is, are we looking to focus on the 3 to 10-year-olds, or are we looking to focus on the 10 to 20-year-olds? All right. And, obviously, if we can do something in the middle where we can accomplish that goal, that would work. But Parkersburg's Most of their splash pad, sliding board, all of that are geared to the younger children. And so if you get a chance, watch the videos. That one from Parkersburg is fantastic. Okay. And the other one, the one from Martin Aquatics, shows you the possibilities, because that slide combination that they've got there is very similar to the one that they've projected in our design. So, all right.
Yeah. So when we're talking about ages and that kind of thing, there's been concern about whether or not the slides would be appropriate for younger kids. Last week I mentioned that the restriction on that is 42 inches. That's about a 4 or a 5-year-old child. And because it is a run out, there's no swim test needed. So there was some confusion about children needing to take a swim test before going down the slide, and that is not true. As Mayor Rapp was talking about just the different ages, I think it's possible to provide something nice for anybody and not be overly focused on anything to where others may not want to be there. I think having that baby pool area for, say, 0 to 3-year-olds is a really, we've seen it in the past be very well used. It's very popular, and then once they're ready to outgrow that, then by that time they've probably been splashing in their floaties in the 3-foot area with their moms and stuff, and getting used to the water. The slide is for any age. The diving boards are for any age, and things that we are going to implement that have not been regulated at all or had a system in place for at all. But that we will do are things to determine whether or not somebody should be in the deep end. You know, can they doggy paddle? Can they tread water? And so you don't want somebody going off the diving board that can't make it to the ladder. So we will put those things in place. So if a 3-year-old can doggy paddle their way over to the ladder, they're allowed to go off the diving board. I do see some possibility around that slide area. If we were to do a hybrid type of thing, you know, kind of instead of it being a full-fledged splash pad, and I really like what Parkersburg has. It is awesome, but it does limit. You know, anybody really older than 10 isn't going to enjoy it as much. You know, parents are going to be out there with their kids, but they're going to be out there with their younger than 10 age kids, and they're kind of missing anybody above 10. And I am just speaking from experience and not necessarily biased, but I'm saying I have a kid and almost 2 kids in the age group that are not going to be served well at the Parkersburg pool probably. So they're not alone, and they have a big friend group. And, you know, we're right across the street from Jackson Middle School, and I would hope that we could provide something that middle school, high school, and beyond are really interested in doing. You know, we talk a lot about giving kids alternatives and things to do during the summer, and, you know, keeping them away from drugs and bad choices and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, for the most part, children are under the guidance of their parents, and they're still, you know, capable of making bad decisions, but they're still really monitored well by their parents. And by the time they become more independent, they're not. And I don't think we can go wrong with providing a balanced amount of things for that older age group. So when I was talking about can I have a hybrid of splash pads, if we added to that slide area, that kind of slide zone, if we added like a dump bucket and some jets that pop up out of the ground randomly, that's fun that anybody of any age would enjoy. I mean, you probably don't want to take your 1-year-old underneath the dump bucket unless you're holding them and they think that's fun. But I think that would still kind of satisfy that splash area. I think we have an opportunity to still be us, to be Jackson Pool, and to be a better version of ourselves. I don't feel the need to necessarily do what anybody else is doing, because I think they're doing a great job at it. And, some families may go to the pool 3 times a week, and, one day they're with us, 2 days they're with them, or 2 days they're with us and 1 day they're with them. And I think that's okay. We serve a big community. Vienna goes to Parkersburg, for a lot of stuff, and Parkersburg will come to Vienna for a lot of stuff. So we're kind of a dependent community, and so I don't want to see us spend a lot of money, or not just about the money, but a lot of square footage on something similar to what Parkersburg has. Again, love what Parkersburg has. I think they did a great job, but I don't think we need to be them.
If you take a look at the Martin Aquatics video, it shows the hybrid slides in the dump bucket and all the water jets and things. So you can see what it actually looks like as a combination in that. One other suggestion that I would like to make based on my experience with the park system that we have here now is one of the items that was put into design was the rope swing. And, that is a great thing. And it's probably one of the most popular items that we have over in Jackson Park. And it is broke 90% of the time. There's a weight limit on that thing. And the problem with it is, kids don't care what it weighs. Okay? If it's there and I can get it on, I'm going to do it. And it's one of those things where the rope swing, I would recommend that we take the rope swing out, because it's not a dependable item to have in there, simply because we can't have the lifeguards. If it's got a 100-pound weight limit or 150-pound weight limit, whatever it is, we won't have the ability for our lifeguards to say, hey, you're too heavy, you can't ride on it, when it could be that it's, a person that's, an athlete or whatever and is bulky. So I would recommend that we take the rope swing out just because of the reliability on it, because I don't want to get another item that we have to fix all the time.
I do want to find out what the because I wasn't aware that Parkersburg had problems with theirs. I want to find out, what theirs was, what company or what brand or whatever, because maybe there's something else. Maybe Martin Aquatic has given us one that doesn't have those issues, and they could speak to that. So I am going to ask them to look into the comparison, and if that's going to be an issue.
Maybe it can be upgraded to say like a 200-pound limit instead of a 130-pound limit or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just has to be more dependable.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
It's, the one we have, it can't stand the pounding.
Yeah. There was one other thing. So I want to also look at maybe deepening the baby pool. I believe they've recommended, or that their design makes it 12 inches, and currently ours is, I believe, 18. Is that right? I believe it's 18. And that's deep enough for, I remember watching my littles, kind of being on their bellies, and kind of, they're not completely touching the bottom, but if it's 12 inches of water, their stomach's touching the bottom and they can't really swim any. So I think a little bit deeper would be good. And I know that they'd have to, I think, lengthen the stretch of the zero entry in order to accommodate that, but I think we've got the deck space to do that. So I think the deeper baby pool would be a really good idea. I will have more feedback and be able to answer questions as we go, but I just want to kind of make sure that I've hit on most of this. I double checked again. They are still waiting on the ramp designs to come in. One of the things that I'm hoping that we can see, I'm kind of being more in favor of having, instead of one that doubles back like the rendering kind of shows, is having just one long one along that west side of the pool. You could start it kind of in the deeper end, kind of in that corner where the diving boards are, and have it gradually go down. It has to be, a 12-to-1 ratio. And so if we're going down to 3 feet. That means it's a 36-foot ramp, and I think we could probably do that along that west side that's long enough for it. So I'm hoping that that would be less obstructive to the pool, the free play space in the pool itself.
On the ramp,
Yeah, for the ramp.
I do believe that if it's constructed out of aluminum, that weight would not be a hindrance to removing it. I believe that if the, situation required us to have a open space, that aluminum would not prohibit us from moving it out and setting it off to the side. Because the design that I've seen, when it's placed in the pool, it's very substantially mounted. But all you want to do is if you want to pick it up and sit it off to the side, it's, 2 guys, 4 guys probably. All right.
And that goes into then conversation about swim lanes and making our pool suitable for swim teams if that ever happens again. I understand that there's interest, but we haven't had it for quite a while. I think this probably has more to do with leadership than the interest. So it's better to put the swim lane lines in now than wish that we would have done it later. So we can do that, and then that way, if that ramp can be removed, that's even better news that we'll hopefully get. So that way, it wouldn't interfere with swim lanes. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to discussion. This is a discussion for us as council to, you've had a week to look at things. And if you also saw at your place, I set, they did send me a list of the pieces like the Lily Walk, agility course, basketball hoops. I'll share this with everybody. So just the preliminary cost for each of these items. The Lily Walk was going to be $160,000. So we've marked that off. Well, no, I'm not going to officially say that because we haven't had discussion about it. But the agility course, $45,000. The basketball hoops, they would each be $3,750, which would be a total of $7,500. The rope swing would be $18,750, and the climbing wall would be $12,500. And a springboard, a 1-meter diving board, would be $18,000. I'm still asking them, they're working on getting numbers for a platform diving board that would be a 1 meter as well. And so when they have those numbers, they'll get that to us.
Okay, so let's keep the discussion at the moment around the table, and then we'll open it up to the floor. And if you all have any comments that you'd like to make. Mr. and Mrs. Pisco, we talked about you when we first opened the meeting, how much we appreciated your time and your suggestions. Melissa read the letter that you sent us today and went over the concerns that you had. And so Warren and Judith Pisco are with us this evening, and they're the folks that we referred to that gave us all the information to make our pool better. So thank you for coming tonight, and in a few minutes when we get done up here, we'll come out there and you all can add whatever comments you'd like to make. All right, so who'd like to start?
I can.
Tom?
I just wondered if we had any demographic information of which age groups use the pool and which don't. I'm sure mine don't. But.
Well, we can gather that from Bishman simply because they've managed the pool for the last 2 or 3 years. I know just from my observation of the age of the kids, what my impression is, but just me looking doesn't matter. I'll try to get you those numbers. Okay?
Yeah, I imagine. I thought they'd probably be pretty hard to get, but I just.
Yeah, so we'll try. All right.
Thank you.
Roger?
Well, in looking at this information that Melissa provided and going over the things, I also agree with, probably it's not a bad idea to take out the Lily Walk. That's the huge expense, if you look at the cost factors here, and also the rope swing. I know we covered it, but I've thought for a week also, my concern was the depth of the kiddie pool or the baby pool or whatever you want to call it. That actually the 12 inches is probably a little bit short. That, it could go to 18 inches, and I think that's going to be, I think that's going to be a good move. Competition swim meets, as we've talked about, we've not had them up there for a while. But at one time, that was pretty big. There were a lot of swim meets up there. I know my boys swam on swim team competition, many meets at Jackson. And so even though that's absent right now, I think we ought to, whatever we need to do to make that, in case it's that develop back in the future, I would push for that. As far as the splash pad applications, and I've been thinking about that as well. Maybe the trade-off with the lily walk and the rope swing, would help maybe work on fulfilling a couple three applications as far as the splash pad. And typically what I've seen, they're in the area of the slides. So, I think that might be something we could look at. I think, and they do get used. I've watched City Park, and, of course, Marriott Aquatic Center, that's pretty much all it is. So I agree that there is an age group that uses those younger. I'd say that falls in the younger age groups. Maybe that 3 to 10. Beyond that, I don't think kids are interested in it. But that age group, I believe they do. I think the age groups above that, they're just, their idea is just to lounge around in the pool and talk to their friends. And is what I've experienced up here. So I'll close with, I agree with taking out the lily walk and the rope swing. Let's take a look at a couple, 3 applications for a splash pad in the area of the slide, and deepen that kiddie pool. And I think that, Mary, you mentioned age groups and who does what. I think that would pretty close, to maybe nailing what we want to do as far as what we want to provide for the different age groups.
Thank you. And I agree. One of the comments that Melissa's made throughout this whole process is the older kids bring their own fun. You get a group of 3 or 4 boys together, they do that and what have you. And so I think that's one of the uses that Jackson Pool typically had is, friends hanging out with their friends. So,
You go first.
Chris?
I have a quick question. Is Omni available this evening for us to ask them questions?
Not this evening. When we spoke last week at council, we'd said they would be at the next meeting. That was assumed it was the next regular meeting.
Yeah.
So they're not here. They were not available for this one.
Okay.
But they will be available next week on the 10th.
Okay.
Can you ask us your question that
Yeah,
you would have
yeah.
asked them?
Yeah, I can definitely just go ahead and ask the questions and get them out there.
Okay.
One question I have is, do the slides push us into the aquatic center category rather than a pool?
Okay.
If so, there are a lot of additional requirements that we would have to meet if we are considered an aquatic center and not a pool.
Well, we've always had a slide. And so every year the slide had to be inspected because And I can't believe that a 10-foot slide would be considered this, but it falls under the same rules as a carnival ride or an arcade ride.
Right.
And so we may already be in that category. I don't know the answer to that, but let us find out.
Yeah, and
That's a good
these
question.
just being a lot larger.
Because we have to have it
slides.
inspected every year.
Yeah, these being a lot larger, I don't know if that's going to push us into that category.
Okay.
So just something to look at, because that could be a much bigger expense and cost in the long term.
Is that something probably that what an insurance company would determine, or what's?
It's just by code.
Okay.
There's code requirements out there that would specify that.
Okay.
Since Melissa brought up the insurance word, I have reached out to our insurance carrier, and I did speak with them about the handicap accessible issues that we talked about, as far as accommodations and helping people get in and out of their cars and getting into the changing rooms and all that. And so we're waiting on our insurance company to come back with us and give us a snapshot of what the added things will add to the pool, and not only equipment wise but accommodation wise. So
Okay.
we will get that information from them and share that with you.
And I think it's helpful to kind of have some of the budget numbers here. I didn't realize that the Lily Walk would be that expensive.
I know.
So, I would agree if that's something that we want to cut from the current project, that's perfectly fine with me. Some of the other smaller ticket items on there, I feel comfortable with. If we want to switch those out, or if they have better suggestions in the long run, that's totally fine. Did they give any kind of cost estimate for the slides at all?
You're going to get it.
Well, just the slides above ground are like $411,000.
Okay.
So that's that is not the plumbing and any of that stuff. It's just the supports and the
Okay.
tubes and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. So, yeah.
So there's probably a fairly significant cost if we look at that with the extra filtration system and pumps and plumbing and all of that. So, okay. And then I just wanted to throw it out as a suggestion. I think it would benefit a lot of people to look at maybe combining the kid pool with the main pool, so that we can have a zero entry into the pool. And we can kind of level it out so that at 18 inches, there's kind of a play area for kids, and then slope it down into the pool the rest of the way. I think one, that gets rid of having to provide an additional ramp into the main pool that we would have to figure out if that can be removable or not, especially if we're going to have swim lanes and stuff. We can just kind of build off of the right side of the pool there, kind of towards the direction of the kiddie pool.
Is that what Country Club did?
Yeah, they did something fairly similar to that.
Okay, I'm picturing that in my head as you're talking.
My thought and suggestion for that would be, one, it would kind of take out a couple birds with one stone. We would get rid of that additional ramp that might get in the way of swim lanes. And two, it would be able to kind of limit the amount of filtration and pumps and those kind of additional costs that we'll have to maintain over the course of the pool. I know that's not necessarily a part of this agreed upon design that we have right now, but I just think that thinking about costs and long-term, hassle and trying to maintain a kiddie pool and a main pool and all of this stuff could just kind of add up. I don't know if that's something that they can look at this point, or if that's kind of too far out of left field. But then I do agree. I think the kind of splash pad area is definitely helpful to look at. I think it would be great to include that as part of the kind of overall area around the slides. My only question of that is, does that require its own filtration system as well? Or can that be included with the slides? Or, because then we're up to 4.
Yeah, I was hoping it would go
Systems.
along with the slides. That was one
Yeah.
of my questions already for them.
Okay.
I'm hoping that it goes along with the slides.
I think that they could.
Yeah, I just know that there's a bunch of requirements about water getting mixed with different uses and different pieces of equipment. So that's just some of the questions that I had. And then, yeah, I think, we definitely should look at this ramp design into the pool a little bit closer. If it's going to be a really big burden to, remove that when we have swim meets, or if we have swim meets, then I don't know if there's a better option there, or if we can look at that. And that's kind of why I suggest looking at kind of combining the kiddie pool with the main pool, because you can knock that out.
On design 4, which is the one we've submitted, where that baby pool is set back off to the right, I like the zero entry thing. I think that's an absolutely great feature, because I think the toddlers will really feel more comfortable. But myself, I like that thing being separated off to the side, because, if you're a mother with small children, you're going to be there. And I think it gives you a certain degree of privacy to play with your kids. I love the zero entry concept. I think the one that the country club did is absolutely terrific. But I really like that fact that that small baby pool is kind of back in that corner, so that you have not a separated area, but a little privacy for mother and the little one to do whatever. So I just don't want to lose sight of that. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that it came to mind, with combining it is, would we be mixing size of kids? I mean, I could see maybe the possibility of, little toddlers and, older kids, bigger kids, and whether that would create an issue if we combine that into the main pool.
I think the other thing that you made me think of, Roger, is, in the concept design, you have a separate filtration system for that one little footprint right there, simply because they are toddlers.
Yep.
Okay. And so if we change it, we put that over with the big pool, that may be an issue segregating that water filtration that might be a little difficult to overcome.
Yeah.
So we can ask them that question, because,
Sure.
I think, babies in swim diapers and what have you, that you want to be careful what you get.
Yeah, and that's fine. And if that's the way that we feel we really need to go and have a separate system, then that's okay. I'm just trying to think in long-term cost effects and maintaining all of this pump equipment and stuff. I really want to think about that as well. So they don't really have any kind of overall cost for like even the kiddie pool then at this point, as far as
No, that's what we'll get. That's what they're working on for all of that. We'll get that for next week.
Okay. And then I guess my other question, and this just comes from a purely kind of architectural and aesthetic standpoint, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the existing pump house, being that it's all CMU block right now. Because we're doing so much renovation work, I'm assuming they're going to have to bring it up to current codes, especially when it comes to sort of the insulation requirements and things like that. So I'm just curious to see, because right now what they were showing was just kind of retrofitting the existing building.
Are you talking about the pump house or the bathhouse?
The bathhouse.
Okay.
Sorry, the bathhouse.
The pump house will be new.
Yeah.
That one's
Yeah,
That'll be totally new.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, that's a big need. And so I think right now at this point we have, those core elements that we have to have, but I think it would just be helpful to see, how much are some of these items really going to cost? Is Omni available to provide kind of alternate options so that when we get a final bid back, we can say, whoa, that's like way too much. So we can kind of cut that from the actual
have
project.
a backup or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but my guess is it won't be a cutback. Okay. When you look at the suggestions that Mr. and Mrs. Pisco have made on the interior of that to accommodate some of those increased spaces and what have you, my guess is if anything, Chris, it'll go up slightly, because we have that same footprint that we need to work with.
Yeah.
But I would be happy if it came in under budget, but we'll see where that ends up.
Yeah, I think that's one of my big concerns right now, is just trying to be cost conscious. So if Omni can provide alternates that would say, if we need to do the slides at a later date, we can kind of hold off on that, or if we need to do the kiddie pool at a later date, just so we make sure that we're not like buying this thing wholesale and like stuck with some $5 million, $6 million budget that we really may not have the money for immediately. You know, I think we're getting close to what we need to have here, and I think it sounds like everyone kind of understands the need to kind of accommodate a bunch of different age groups and stuff, which is good. So I think, you know, moving in that direction is definitely important. I think keeping or providing swim lanes is definitely an important feature. I know we talked about the rope swing. I'm kind of, you know, indifferent towards that. If it's going to be a huge maintenance issue, then let's nix it. You know, if any of these items, if they say, hey, you know, this agility course is great, but the ropes on it break every 3 years, so you're going to be paying, you know, 50 grand every 3 years to fix it, or something like that, then maybe we should definitely ask them kind of the maintenance and upkeep and things like that on some of those pieces of equipment. But
That's good.
Okay?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I did email everyone as we were talking, the email that I provided to the pool committee and to the mayor, so Roger will get a chance to look at those videos. Lots of good stuff here. I have a question for Chris. It's just a design thing. Because you brought up something I didn't think about, or wasn't aware of, rather, when you said about the slides and being too tall, putting us in a different category, aquatic. Well, let me go back for just 1 second. Is there a way that you could do zero entry into the pool, like some kind of way to like come around it and gradually dump into like on the low end where we have those on either side, where we have the steps?
I mean, I think that's up to Omni and Martin. You can design a pool however you want to. So if that's something that they can come up with, I think that's definitely an option. Yeah.
We'll bring that up because I think I was at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting and we talked about the pool liner. Just to kind of backtrack a little bit, when Omni first presented some stuff to us, they identified that the pool liner really it needed to be replaced. Okay. And then we got some stuff more recently that said, no, we're going to go ahead and leave the pool liner where it is. And then I went to Budget and Finance, and then we talked about replacing the pool liner. So if the pool liner has to be replaced, is that a time where, because that's a major expense, where you can then start thinking about, can we do some kind of a zero entry there? I don't want to get rid of the swim lanes because I think, you know, once you do that, you're done, right? While I recognize we don't have a swim team now, that doesn't mean that 2 or 3 years from now we couldn't have one, or we couldn't host swim meets or whatever. So I was curious about that.
Remember, when you're thinking about that,
Mhm.
that it's a 12-to-1 slope ratio that you have to maintain,
Okay.
even on the zero entry. So the farther that thing goes, the more slope you have, the farther it has to go back
Mhm.
to accommodate that 12-to-1. So on the
Right.
sides, you know, it depends on how far that footprint would be.
Okay.
And also, I want to clarify real quick. So Omni, we were the ones that were saying that the pool liner was good, and they acknowledged, yeah, the pool liner's good, but they never said that we shouldn't replace it. They were the ones saying you ought to go ahead and replace it now, because like if 3 years from now you say we need to replace the liner, everybody's gonna say you just got a new pool, you know. So they said yes, we should replace the liner as part of the whole.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That's what I mean. You know.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. Sorry.
Well, I may have misstated it, but right. I think, and I know in the deep end, there's some question of the pool liner. There's some squishiness there, and I don't have a lot of familiarity with the pool, although I grew up with one. But you know, mom and dad took care of that stuff. But I know how expensive it can be, and once you get water from the liner to the pool itself, you're in trouble. So I was curious about a way to enter the pool that was zero entry, and one of the reasons I was thinking about that too, I think that we need to have how I should put this. I think dignity is very important, and I think when you start talking about a ramp that has to be moved by a couple people or something like that. I mean, I don't prefer that. And then the way in the drawing that I'm looking at that you sent out last week, where we kind of have an outline of where a ramp could potentially be in the shallow end, it takes up quite a bit of space. I mean, I'm not complaining about that, but you know, it's definitely a consideration of how we need to provide, you know, accessibility to the pool in the most dignified way that we possibly can. I want to talk a minute about Parkersburg and their splash pad. I was around, I attended the meetings in 2017 that Parkersburg had when they were contemplating the splash pad, and to be honest with you, I wasn't for it at the time. I thought, gosh, you know, but it has turned out to be a very successful thing for Parkersburg. And, you know, I don't know, you guys probably read in the paper last week when, you know, Mayor Joyce had said, you know, slides and splash pads, that's what the kids want. And while I tend to agree a splash pad maybe is geared towards more younger kids, there's a lot happening in this pool for your teens, preteens, you know, the kids that are going to really, you know, 11 and up, 11, 14, you know, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. You've got, you know, diving board, and we're contemplating a platform. I think that's great. The climbing wall. I mean, all these things are things that can easily be changed. You know, we might find better things if the rope swing is not something that we can't find a weight limit that we can deal with, and, you know, we can move on to something else. I think, but we're gearing a lot of stuff to that age group. And so when you talk about just having an 18-inch baby pool, definitely 18 inches is better than 12. I agree with all the stuff there, but that's, you know, where are you with the kids that are, you know, 3 to 10 or so? And I know we have several daycares that will come and use the pool when we're open, and so they have needs. So I think the idea of the splash pad and pool and slide combination has a lot to tease out. I think I would really like to see a lot more stuff on that. And that brought me to my thing about it. I'm glad you said something about it, Chris, about entering into a different category of an aquatic center. I have no idea. But, you know, there's a lot to like with this design, and there's a lot that I do like with this design. And I have no objection with, you know, a 22-foot slide tower. I think that a lot of kids would really enjoy that. But are we going to make a decision to have this, you know, this giant dual 22-foot slide tower and then not be able to try to have some splash pad components? So I really would like to get more information on that. So anyway, that's my comments for right now.
Okay. Tom, anything before we ask for the crowd's comments? Judith, you're here.
Yes.
So we've read all your information and we've discussed as much as we can. Any comments before we throw it out?
Well, I can take my turn with any other citizen.
Take it. You want to go?
I can ask a couple of questions, and I don't know whether it's possible. With the L-shaped pool, would it be possible to get a boom to sort of isolate the deep section? A foam boom that would be easily moved, that might be... Not a lane line, something bigger, maybe 8 inches deep, and it could be dragged across, and you could make it, and have basketball or water polo in that area, or maybe make that a lane line thing, bring the board up or block it, put a gate on the diving board so it can't be.
So you're saying like kind of right here?
Yep.
Okay.
Ask. That seems like that would be easy to accommodate.
And the second thing is, well, I see this, that would really destroy. I think, given the shape of the pool, that you're smarter putting one of the chair lifts in and have the plastic wheelchairs so that you can, with a swing out arm, so you can side transfer from the wheelchair to the chairlift. I think that will be less of a nuisance, interfere less with the operation of the pool.
Instead of a ramp?
I think that ramps are very nice, but you aren't going to, if you were building this pool from scratch, the ramp would be great, but you're not.
Right.
And it's not that big a pool.
Okay.
And one of the questions I had was, what is the occupancy of the pool? How many people are going to be getting wet?
It's on the drawing. 135. Yes, it is. It's on the corner. It's 135, I think.
I'm not sure if that, I don't,
It's 135 with all the people lying on lounge chairs.
yeah, I'm not sure, I don't think that's necessarily
I'm asking, what's
capacity for the entire
occupancy of the
pool.
Okay, then maybe I interpreted it wrong because that's the way I thought it was.
No, that's the occupancy of the lounge chairs and the tables.
So let me ask you, Judith, so would you be in favor of having, because of the size of our pool, we have to have two accessibility apparatuses. So whether it's two ramps or whatever, so we would potentially then be looking at doing 2 chairs, is that right?
Why do you need 2 chairs?
Well, because of the square footage of the pool.
You're
It's,
kidding. I'd appeal that.
so we have not used one very much at all, but we have to have 2 ways to get in. And
Well,
so,
if you have this ramp, it's not going to be 2 ways to get in.
Well, we already have a lift.
so
We've had the lift for a long time.
Where's the lift?
it's not in that picture there. Is it on wheels or
It's
is
right
it,
beside where the rolls up are for the
so it can
swim lanes.
roll out
Yeah.
and we can put it wherever we want?
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to be let down
yes,
in the,
Yes, it's mobile.
okay, I was picturing,
We do have it
one
done.
that you see at like a hotel pool that's, anchored in, but if it's a mobile one, yeah.
See if you can't appeal the fact that you.
We'll ask that question, okay?
Yeah.
You're our resident expert, so, yeah. Well, maybe Warren is then, I don't know.
So, I would be interested to know,
I was reading the bathroom things and it said, even if you use separate bathrooms, you have to provide a handicap changing area in the main restroom. I mean, some of it's insane.
so we would need to provide a handicapped stall in a regular bathroom, even though we have handicapped bathrooms?
Yes, that's what it says. Now, you may be exempt because it's a remodel.
You have to look at the things very carefully because there are sections that say do this, there's another, this is an alternative and so on. I've looked at it, but I haven't read it in detail, so I can't.
I read that and I couldn't believe, that was one idea I had. This idea was when you are, why do you have a hallway the full width of the,
Yeah, I liked your idea about that. This was what Omni had come up with, but I like that idea. I don't know if it was, they had mentioned, having ventilation and that kind of thing. I don't know if it's because of plumbing or something like that, but I would think that they'd be taking, most of,
are you trying to use the drainage that's already in the floors for your showers and toilets?
we'll confirm that with them, but I believe it all would have to be taken up. So, they'll leave the structure, but they can take the flooring out and lay new pipe and that kind of stuff. So I really like that idea of shortening that hallway and making those last 2 rooms bigger. That makes a lot of sense.
Then you take out the wall going this way and rearrange.
Mhm.
Now, this doesn't have this one. This could become an extra changing, cut in and make an extra changing area. And building a room an area that doesn't require water is not all that is feasible if you have to put plumbing. It's more complicated for what is traditionally the woman's restroom.
Mhm.
Or there's no reason why you couldn't reverse the 2 restrooms and not enlarge it. But it seemed to me that you could take out the ticket and possibly utility area and enlarge the women's restroom that way. And the only reason I'm stressing, how many people do you expect in the pool at a time? Because that's the number that's going to change, not the 135 that are sunbathing. And that's important, because I don't think you could get 100 people in the pool in any meaningful activity.
And when we were, this,
And you
go ahead.
can get an idea from, if you go through past years, how many people, what's the maximum occupancy of the pool, and what the age, anyway, that was, and again,
I would say that historically, we can tell you how many people were in the pool every day. But with these new amenities, we're hoping that it increases a lot. Because Tom, you asked that question, and I'm pretty sure I can tell you by day what the attendance was.
I don't think you're going to have 135 people lying on chaise long and sitting at tables, and that's how they got the count. Anyway, you might have to extend the building this way, and you want to extend it in such a, extend the building under the shade structure. To move the concessions and the lifeguards, and move what doesn't need to be plumbed into the new area. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't have the tickets facing towards what the concessions is now, and turn the concessions around and shove them into the hallway that is now tickets. If you had women's changing area expanded into that area. And I don't know how many, if you're only going to have 40 people maximum in the pool, you don't need 20 stalls. If you're going to have 200 people in the pools at a time, you do need 20 stalls. My say was over.
Thank you, Judith.
Support?
No.
No? Okay, no problem. I got a voice that's loud enough to carry.
Oh, you mean the microphone? Oh, yeah, I thought you meant the elmo.
Oh, no.
No, the mic's on.
Mic. Oh, it's on. Cool. Going through the design of the pole, when everything got started, I had reached out to Melissa to make sure she got the input of at least Emily Martin, the PHS swim coach, and Diane Cunningham, who does Summer League Swim. Why? Because people that use this pool are just not the kids that are using a splash pad or whatever. Going through, my kids started swimming 7 years old competitively at 7 too. Charlie can vouch that if you take a look at the size of Williamstown swim team at one time, it was huge. It disappeared. Why? They need a coach. Jackson had a decent sized team too. It disappeared. Why? It needs a coach. Swim is picking up in the region, and we ought to have stuff set up for the youth to be able to do that. And the youth is those that want to competitively swim from about the age of 8, I say, until they graduate high school. And just a little bit of insight on that. PHS swim team this year is going to have about 34 kids on a team between the boys and the girls. Parkersburg South with Ryan's team, I think, is going to be close to 50. And the Sharks got 130. I had 130 kids last Wednesday. They were saying, we can't get swim lanes at the Y. We can't get swim lanes, at Boys and Girls Club. Everyone needs swim lanes, so we're limited on our things. And they said, we need to put a cap on it, on how many swimmers. I said, absolutely not. We got to find a way to get around this problem, because I'm trying to get a regional aquatic center put in this area to serve everybody, not just one little town. So with that said, when you go to a swim meet for the summer league, there's a lot of shenanigans that got to happen to make the pool to accommodate. So when you look at the lanes, that's why I asked Emily and others to get involved, is going through, you have the rails to get in and out of the pool. Those got to be on sleeves. You got to be able to pick them up and move them out. they're in the way. You have 6 lanes of a pool that you need to have functioning. You don't want anything that's going to be going into the pool. So the comment about, well, have the zero entry, Country Club used to have a good pool, in my opinion. When they did that zero entry thing, that one lane's useless. That goes into the kiddie pool during swimming. Going through also, you want to have it set up where if you have a ramp or the lift or whatever, have it where you can pick it up and move it out of the way. Yes, it's not easy and it's not light. They have the one at the Y that we have to rig up to get out of the way as well, but we do. So the pool, whether it's for summer, the splash or whatever, we really need to make it useful for everybody. Accommodate different age groups. I mean, we spend a ton of money in this state for rehab. Spend the money up front to prevent the kids from wanting to do that stuff in the first place, but paying the money on the back end. So everybody ought to step back, think, what's the best thing? And I applaud what you guys said. We don't need to copy what somebody else did. Because Parkersburg's, when we were arguing with Southwood, it's the only 50-meter pool in this area. Yes, it's outside. It's the only pool that kids have that's an Olympic-sized pool that's being taken away from the competitive swimmers. And they're putting in another city park type splash pad pool. Why? Don't mirror what you got. People, like you said, they go from here, they go to the south. They go from Parkersburg South, they come to Vienna. People go to Marietta. We ought to get together to see what's best for the community, that everybody's happy, and why copy everybody? Accommodate. But I really would say, don't focus so much on the bling. I'm not a bling type of person. Go through and what's functional, whether it's for the handicapped, for the competitive swimmers, for the toddlers, for the teens, those that just want to go and splash. But you got to have something that you can hit all age groups. That's my 2 cents worth. I gave Kim or Melissa my comments of what's required on some of the stuff, but I really say reach out to Diane, reach out to Emily, reach out to Charlie. He'll tell you what's required for an official regulation pool, what vouches for one, what doesn't, and it opens up other opportunities.
Judith, you have a question for Henry?
Yes, I do. Would it possible to run the lane lines for competition this way?
You need 25, was it 25 meters, right? Yeah, 25 yards. 25 yards.
Is that 25 yards?
I don't know. I don't know the measurements of this pool.
Okay.
I know when the kids swim, they swim this way.
Okay. I'm not just, okay, and it's wider.
There was 6 lanes and they swim this way in the pool when they did competition. They never went the shorter way. So,
Just a question, I wasn't sure.
but the area had a huge opportunity. So even going through is get the city of Vienna to do something for summer league, coax a coach, do something for summer rec. I mean, there's a lot of interest out there. We just got to get the people to help.
Okay, thank you, Henry.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Tammy?
I just had a couple of concerns. I love the idea of the splash pad, and if people would take their kids and grandkids to the city park. They tell me, and I haven't been to the city park, but if you don't get there like 30 minutes at a time, then when you go in, you're going to be trying to find some place to sit close to the splash pad. And as well as that, they have some umbrellas for shade, and they have like, I think it's 4 pergolas, close to that house. People literally run. When the gates open, and they get in there, they run for those shade sections. I think we need to look at some of the shade. I think it's very difficult for members, adults, older adults, to be in the sun all day without some shade.
Well, the design as it is has the 2 areas up next to the concession area. And that was the same concern that Melissa had on that left-hand bank where you have all that seating. I don't see a reason why they couldn't put some more of those coverings in or some sort of a facility. So,
And I do like the idea of some of maybe the chairs that we provide having umbrellas that are just attached just to the chair. I think that's a really good idea. And some of those maybe even something that we would want to, maybe rent them out, or I don't know, you have to sign up for them. I don't know. Call ahead and reserve them. I don't know. But there'd be good ways for people not to have to be there right at 12 o'clock in order to get shade. I know that mad rush.
Yeah, I can't sit in the sun all day, and I wouldn't be able to go and spend all day because I could just, not comfortable doing that. The other thing I wanted to say, I'm kind of concerned. I mean, I'm a senior now. I know a lot of people that are adults and younger than I. And when you look at this pool design, if you take the lily pad out, I think you have more room. But even when that agility courses, really from probably 5 feet to one side of it, taking into consideration kids swimming off of it and everything, so you don't have explosions in the water. You really are not going to have much space from the 3-foot section or the middle section up even to where that agility course is for people like myself or whatever to use. Say a window with a couple of rooms, we want to just go in, see what the dog, kick her legs, have a conversation, do a social thing. I'd like to see more space for that. And I think it's really important for kids to have these activity areas. But I'd like to see some separation so that there is more use for other people and even their parents with different kids versus the real active activities where there's more danger, injury and so forth.
Hang on one second, Tammy. Can you make a note and ask them what the maximum length is that you can put that agility course in? Because that thing, as she's talking about, is going the short distance. If it went the other way across the deep end where the swimming pool is, I don't know what that distance is. Okay, so you could actually, instead of being this way, you could make that this way, if it's long enough, if it'll support itself. So we'll check
Oh,
on
I
that.
see what you're saying.
Yeah, put it that way. Because that is a concern. Somebody that's hanging on that thing, they may lose their grip. That happens.
He's talking about like, what if it went from here to almost like here, kind of at the end of the deep end, that kind of right in there maybe. So, yeah, we can definitely look at possibly relocating that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I know I read, I started looking at some things, I'm not familiar with a lot of the activities and things in this question. Anyway, I found an article that was written sometime about August about actually instructions for climbing. And it was talking in that about how it was necessary to have a single individual lifeguard. That people that use the climbing wall had to do a swim test that we were talking about or something. And there was some other restrictions in there that if the lifeguard wasn't watching and people did not follow those instructions, it became a liability issue because it was absolutely essential for those guidelines to be followed for the insurance recovery activities. So I have no idea with the slide and 22 people generating around it and kids sit there and play around and jostle and it doesn't have to be there. But I'd like to kind of know, just for my benefit, my decision maker. So, what is going to be the labor for lifeguards and attendants and things like that? And what does that do to the cost of the pool on an annual basis? The other thing you guys were talking about is one thing I don't know if this is a possibility. I think the baby pool is a great idea. Now that I'm talking about it a little bit deeper. And in my mind, I think a nice splash pad is essential if you want to really draw people. Is it a possibility in any way to kind of merge those two so that you have that zero entry baby pool and have like a separation there, because the people from the splash pad can't get to the baby pool and vice versa, that the water would be the same, so you wouldn't have to have a whole new filtration system.
The toddlers make the difference on the baby pool. Yeah, that's the difference. When you have that potential, that's where the baby pool filtration system comes in. Okay, and there'll be enough distance between the splash pad area and the outlets of the slide but I don't believe there'll be a confusion right there. There, I mean, there should be plenty of room for the kids that are exiting the slide because the way the chutes come out, you know, there is no water there. All the water in the tubes is self-contained. So it's not like a pool or anything. When they come down, that's there. And then that baby pool is back tucked in that corner. So I think it's a safe distance. Yes? Okay.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no effort on pools at all, and I love what you're going to do, but just a few suggestions for you to consider. Absolutely put in a new liner when you're in the pool.
Yes.
Never buy a new car with a transmission that has 250,000 miles on it. That you don't want to know. You want to make sure that, I know this was a 6-lane competitive pool, as I recall. You want to make sure you have your lane markings put in at the time that you put water in the pool. Have all your lane markings in. They will know the specifications. You also want to have lane dividers accounted for. And not immediately, but at some point, you're going to need blocks. And most of the pools have portable blocks that they move. And why does it? Theirs are installed pools. And so are the ones in South Desert pools. But I think most of the outdoor pools have mobile blocks that they set in place that are designed to fit up against the edge of the pool. So the kids will have blocks to pull off of. That's really my only suggestion. Your markings, your lane lines, and make sure you have a new liner and account at some point in the future the cost to have blocks.
Thank you, Charlie. Henry, you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, there was a comment about, running towards the umbrellas or shade. Whether you go to the Marietta Aquatic Center, or you go to the Columbus Zoo, the Sky Zone, and thing right next door, or whatever, there's lines, and when that door's open up, it's a free-for-all, no matter where
You can't have
you're
enough.
never gonna.
You can't have enough.
Never gonna. And, going off of what Charlie was talking about, Jackson used to have the wooden blocks, the portables. That's what we want to add, and that's what some of the others had. Don't know if they're putting in a design, if you want to put it where you have the pipe and put a cap on it for future. You can get the ones that you can put in that are like down the wire. If you want to put it in, it's cheaper to do it, ahead of time as opposed to after the fact.
Okay, we'll see what designs are available. All right, any further questions?
I just wanted to mention that as far as the children with disabilities, providing things in our parks and everything is one thing that needs to be done for the children that have disabilities. But I think the pool is another thing too. I think that maybe you could find something or whatever that could accommodate them when they come to the pool, that they can enjoy too. Because although all of the things that are being presented is wonderful for children that do not have that issue. So if they've got a disability, they should be able to have something at the pool that they can enjoy too.
Have you been to the Parkersburg Splash Pad?
No, I have not.
If Kim would share that with you, it is a very, very good demo of the facilities they have. They call their area an inclusive area. And almost every one of the activities over there is designed for special needs kids, no matter whether it's physical or whatever. And I think the Parkersburg pool does a terrific job of that, what you're asking about right there. So, I mean, it's impressive.
I wanted to consider,
It's impressive. Okay.
For the pool and everything, or something like that, for the kids in our community. I've had people say things to me, like with the parks and everything, that they didn't really have things for children, with special needs or handicapped or whatever. And things for doing this, I thought would be something to bring up, that you would consider too. Another thing that I just wanted to ask about is, and I have asked about it plenty of times, is
the, and I don't know when you're going to do it or when it's going to come about, actually providing the different options that can be taken for the financing.
We're going to do that next Thursday.
Okay, that's what I was going to know and find out, what all you have that's going to be helpful.
Yes, we need a number, Brendan. As soon as we get that, then we're gonna figure it out.
Well, I know that there's grants, actually apply for a grant for their schools. There's also people that have, given money to provide money, help with it too. Those are just things that altogether that I would hope that you
Okay. Warren, you had a question or a comment?
I've got a concern with movable aluminum ramp and a pool line. Because I think there's been a couple of pools I've heard of that have had kayak lessons, and they've been very concerned about the kayak bumping up against the edge of the pool and damaging the liner. So I'm just picturing if you're trying to pick up and move an aluminum thing, I picture feet on it, and if you happen to drop that or bang it against the liner, you may need a new liner. So
Thank you. We'll take that into consideration, whether it's got rubber shoes or whatever, because I like Judith's idea a lot better. If we don't have to have the ramp, we won't have the ramp, but the shoes are,
I sent you the ADA regs on on pools and also on bathing changing things.
Yeah.
They had
I'm gonna share, if with your all's permission, I'd like to forward your emails to council. Is that okay? Okay, so I'll send that to you guys, because I got that this afternoon and I have, you guys are very thorough and I love it. But I haven't had a chance to read every single line or click on every link. So I will do that, but I'll also share it with everybody else here.
They give a number of different ways, and some things are absolutely specified, and some things, like showers have to be a certain size. And there's various options, and I can look up the regs and say, this is what it says, but I have no idea how to interpret it.
okay. Chad, you have a question? Comment?
I just wanted to say, not really so much a question, but I wanted to say that I think this has been very helpful. Being able to get together and have a conversation like this, I think that's part of what I've heard, time and time again, is to be able to have the open discussions. So, thank you for setting this up and just taking the time and have the conversation. My concerns were always, schedule, financing, and liabilities, and what amenities were there. And I think I shared with Melissa the other day. I have an uncle that very wise, and his statement always was: take the time, do it right, spend the money accordingly, and get what you want. So as we proceed forward through this, I just encourage this council as a whole, let's take the time to do it right. That means adjusting, some scheduling. That means adjusting some scheduling. But let's do it right and give the city everything that it deserves.
Last question, Judith, and then we're going to quit.
Okay, the comment on my house is about the kayaks, it was the blades and the launching, because it's very nice to launch the boat off the edge of the pool. But the blades are incredibly sharp.
It's funny because in the last 2 or 3 years, we closed the pool for the season. We've always had a dog swim. We've never had an issue with a set of paws messing up the liner. And so the mill thickness of those liners must be pretty tough. But I'd actually like to put a kayak in that pool because I don't know how to kayak. It'd be a great place to learn how. But yeah.
I have a question before you wrap this up, Mayor, and maybe you're going to get to it, but I'll ask it just the same. Next Thursday, are we going to, I know we're going to get some idea of price and everything, but are we going to approve everything next Thursday, the design and the price, because those are put together? I mean, what's the goal for next Thursday? Or maybe a better way of stating it, what's the process from here?
So we will have that number, and because Election Day is next week, I have to post the agenda tomorrow. Yeah. So more than likely, I won't have that number to add to the supporting documents, but as soon as I get it, I'll pass it on to you guys, ahead of the meeting. I know that Mayor Rapp has some things prepared for talking about how we're going to proceed through the financing and what our options are, both from what we currently have, whether it be capital reserves, financing, foundations and all of that. So he's going to talk us through that. We will only move as fast as we want to go, so I will probably still put something on there to say, all right, are we ready to approve this? Are we ready to say, yes, we're going to move forward? And if we need to table it, we table it. If we're not ready, or if we don't have the information, or if we're uneasy with it. And, I 100% agree with, what Chad was saying. I think that's everybody's intention up here is to, I'm here to keep the pressure on.
Well, I think the logical way
we're
on
not
that
going
is
to rush it. Yeah.
when we do the funding part of it, we will put a resolution in to authorize not to exceed.
Right.
Because if we make a tweak or we find something that we have to do a change order on, you can't lock yourself into the penny.
No.
So we will put a not to exceed on it, and then we'll figure out, because once we get started, that's
okay, because that's just to be more specific, because I did go to the Budget Finance Committee meeting, and I know the 4 different revenue streams, or how you're trying to do this, and I thought that was reasonable, and so it's just agreeing upon a price, right? But there were so many questions raised here tonight about splash pad, and I think that's splash pad and slide. I think that can significantly change what number you have in mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
if we can't answer those questions, we'll have to delay it.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll have Omni and Martin here next week, and I'm going to give them the link for the live stream, and I'm going to give them, a copy of everything that I've taken notes on tonight with questions. I did that last week, and give them a chance to respond. There might be things that they could, in what they're already working on, if they're like, well, we've already put the lily pad in, okay, mark the lily pad off, minus this much, So hopefully there are things that we've done that are going to be easy adjustments. And if there are other things that we're wanting to add, like say, this splash pad area off of the slide and that kind of stuff, I will be pushing to get everything they can possibly give us. And again, if we don't have the information, we won't vote on it. We'll make sure that we have everything that we need before we all have to have peace about it.
right.
Because as Kim said, there was a lot of questions that was surfaced tonight that could possibly make that delay.
If I could, yeah.
And,
sorry,
we
Roger.
heard Charlie say, do it right.
Well, yeah,
believe it was Charlie.
we just had questions about designs, but I think there are lots of questions about scheduling and how this whole thing goes together. So I'm excited if Martin and Omni can be here, because just to ask those questions from those folks it's changing.
Yeah, it's gold. If I could, it's not going to be a vote, but could I kind of poll you guys to make sure, kind of see where you felt about things? Are we good with asking them to get rid of the lily walk?
You can't do
Yes.
I can't do that?
that. I'm sorry.
Oh,
All right.
can I infer it?
You can't do that.
Okay, fine. Well, I already took notes, so.
All right.
I'm sorry, maybe that's the closing question. Can I say something? Can you get the 2 options with and without the lily pad? So that
Oh.
you have the price.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you all for coming this evening. We really do appreciate your input, council members. We will try to make this as painless as possible. If you think of anything during the week, call Melissa. She has access to those guys. She can get us costs. And we do have several options on the financing, so we will try to put that, a little closer. But anyway, with that, and On the agenda, we have council comments. Are there any council comments? Okay, great, thank you.